So in reading through Jonah recently, just picked up on 2 or 3 interesting thoughts or themes that may be worth considering just to keep us intrigued with this particular text. The first aspect that I'd never really noticed before, but is actually pretty obvious, is the engagement that God seems to have with creation in order to be the architect of the whole story. So there are 5 ways in which we're told specifically God actually orchestrates creation in order to maneuver the plot forward. The first one is the sending of the storm when Jonah is running away on the boat, and so this wild storm hits the boat. The second one is the sending of the great fish to catch Jonah when he's in the water. The third one later on is when God sends this nice vine to give Jonah shade as he watches the possible calamity that's about to fall upon Nineveh. The fourth one is when God sends a worm to eat the vine that's providing the nice shade. And then the fifth one is when God sends the hot east wind to blow on Jonah when the vine is dead and he is exposed to the beating sun. And so there's these 5 moments throughout the story where the natural world is employed as a character within the plot to bring the story forward, and also to bring, I think, Jonah's character and emotions to the surface. So just a refreshing and quite interesting way in which the writer highlights God's activity in creation within the story. The second aspect, which I think is worth considering, is a verse which is in the prayer that Jonah offers when he is in the belly of the fish. And there's this verse in chapter 2 that says, "Those who cling to worthless idols forfeit the grace that otherwise would be theirs." Or, "Those who cling to worthless idols turn away from or leave behind the love that would otherwise be theirs." So this really beautiful verse that challenges us again to figure out, are we clinging to worthless idols in any way? Because if we are, there's a consequence, there's a cost involved in that we are unable to then receive and enjoy the love that we could have appreciated in and from God. So not only is this a great teaching that causes us to examine again our own heart and circumstances, it also just summarizes very clearly, I think, one of the cause and effects of some of our morose in our lives, which is that we are holding on to the things other than God, and in doing that we forfeit grace that would otherwise be ours. But the irony here is it leads us to the third point, which is that Jonah does not actually live in accordance with his own prayer, because later on in the story, the lush green vine that God sends to give him shade from the hot sun, I think in some way for Jonah instantly becomes some sort of idol. He clings to it, he wants it, he loves it. And when it's taken away from him, he is furious at God. And he laments and he grieves more for this withered vine than for this city of over 100,000 people who are on a knife edge. And this is highlighted by God, and God actually calls Jonah on it and says, "Are you really this concerned about a vine? Should you be this upset?" And Jonah says, yes I should, and yes I am. So he is forfeiting the grace and the peace and the love that otherwise he could enjoy and experience, because he's clinging to this idol, this vine that took on this disproportionate importance within his life. So I think the story of Jonah is almost like this exaggerated opera of events, where the emotions and the characters and the plot are all intensified and amplified for the purpose of the narrative, to teach us something important. And then Jonah finds himself right in the middle of that reality. And yet for us it gives a nice reference point to consider and reconsider. Are we responding to God's call appropriately? Are we running away? Are we clinging to idols? Are we putting more importance on physical or natural things than in the lives of our community and the people around about us that have eternal value? So anyway, just some reflections on the book of Jonah, a sort of miscellaneous collection for us to consider together. So until next time, peace.